The world of money is changing. Stablecoins now move billions in seconds, while traditional systems still take days. Behind this shift are people willing to live comfort, take a risk, and build what others don't yet see. One of them is Chris Aruliah. From helping shape open banking to leading crypto adoption and major fintechs, Chris has spent his career bridging traditional finance and innovation. Today, he's helping build GBPA and the future of digital finance.
Frankie, let me just start by saying whatever I tell you, you're not going to understand. And number two, whatever I'm doing, you're never going to see for 10 years.
So what was the biggest challenge there, Chris?
It did feel like the Wild West. It was a very alien world in one sense, where this new world of crypto was breaking down barriers. AI being very much the next step in this, because one aspect of stablecoins is the programmability.
We were talking about traditional banks. They are not so faster. They are very bureaucratic, But do you think that they are adapting to these new payment methods?
The bank is designed to be stable, secure, trusted, and have systems that work, and that's it. So we're meeting with big asset managers, with the banks, and having these discussions, which is super fascinating, that this innovation that has come out of the crypto world is now transitioning.
If you could go back, which advice would you give to your 20 years old self?
I would say believe in yourself, trust in your own abilities, and don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chris, Veronica.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jimena, please.
Hi. Nice to meet you, Chris. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Pleasure.
Chris, well, it's a pleasure to have you. We were very curious about your profile because you know that stable coins or crypto nowadays seems like a boom. I would say it's the hot topic, the hot trend. Wherever you go, you open LinkedIn or Google, whatever, there is always a news about stable coins. There is, I will say, hate and love about the subject.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I will say as well that there is a lot of, lack of education about what is crypto, and also depending on the region that we're talking about. So definitely, I think that you are a key person to talk about what is the stable coins, what is happening in the market. And currently, Chris, you are the Chief Commercial Officer for Agant, who is steering the GBPA, that is the digital pound sterling. And obviously it's a huge milestone, it's a huge achievement that you're still working, and it's super interesting. So definitely we're gonna deep dive later on that. And Chris, you have more than a decade working in the financial system and in crypto, but also doing like a kind of bridge between traditional finance and this crypto war, innovation and finance. So I think it's something that's really valuable as well to discuss with you, to go through your journey. And like always we say, also to know the side view of the story, because behind of that, it's a person that is going through challenges, indecisions, So definitely something that we want to hear from you as well. So again, welcome. Thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. It is an exciting area. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the questions, and it's of interest to everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so you started in crypto in 2020. You have been a whole career in terms of fintech and finance and so on. So how was that transition? What pulled you into crypto? What may click on you to say, hey, I want to jump into crypto, the first step that you gave?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think that part of the journey started a bit earlier in 2016. So I've been a tech guy all my career. I'm not a banker. I spent actually 1 year at the Bank of England when I left school before I went to university. So that's the height of my financial career. But the rest of it has been in tech. I think the thing that brought me into crypto is the same thing that brought me into fintech. And that was really on the back of, my early career was in a software company that went through the transition of the internet, being born. And so back then we had to rethink everything for this new thing called the internet. And you talk about the love-hate that there might be with crypto. Actually, the same thing existed back when the internet came along. And I ended up running the internet business for that particular software company, which was a very large software company at the time. And, half the company were against it and half for it. And I even had colleagues who refused to speak to me.
God, okay.
Oh, yes, seriously. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. There was even hateful messages being sent and this and that. So I won't go into the details or even name the company, but I think we then went through that period, and then I had the opportunity to leap into a startup, which is now in the world of fintech, because I saw that this also was a revolution that could happen in finance and how we manage our money and how we manage our finances. And that attracted me. And that took me through into a career in mobile banking and worked for a UK listed company called Monetize. And it was around that period in 2016 that I was approached by an entrepreneur, Steve Kirsch, who's quite a famous man, done a number of startups, but he started a company called Token. And so when he explained to me his vision of tokenization and how there could be an alternative to Bitcoin and how money can move on the internet, that really appealed to me. And so that's where I jumped into this world. And so in a way, it was that appeal of revolutionizing finance. How can we do finance in a new way, potentially a better way to benefit society, and something that built on what we've already done in the internet space? And I just saw crypto as the next step in that. And it was quite a scary step, I would say, because crypto back then, so when's that, 2018, when I joined Bitstamp, it was still, well, it was a much smaller market. It was also a market that people were very fearful of. And it was, to be truthful, a little bit like the Wild West, these new companies with some strange ideas. But I think it was the right move.
That's good. That's good. Talking about this move that obviously there was this transition, coming from the regulated fintech space, into this much more experimental, let's say, crypto world. So what was the biggest challenge there, Chris?
Yeah, I think you've sort of touched on that, and I might mention it before. It was the first thing was it's a completely new world. It did feel like the Wild West. It was a very alien world in one sense, where this new world of crypto was breaking down barriers. So like you say, the regulated world has rules and it has ways we have to work and we have to follow these things. But when I came into the crypto space, there was no regulation. I remember going to the FCA in the UK because I said to my colleagues back then at Bitstamp, has anyone spoken to the regulator to make them aware of who we are? And we said no. And back then the UK was the second largest market for Bitstamp. So I turned up at the FCA and introduced our company. And then I asked them, do they realize how much money we manage on behalf of UK clients? And I told them the number, and their faces visibly changed when they realized how much money we were handling. And they hadn't even heard of this company, that we weren't regulated back then because there was no regulation. And interestingly, funnily enough, my cousin actually ended up writing the regulations in the UK because he was at the FCA. So that's quite a little side story, but it was an interesting journey on that level. Then the second part was learning all these new things: blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, navigating a new job, new role, new colleagues, even in a new country, Slovenia, which I was going to quite often. So new culture, a lot of new things happening at the same time. I mean, even looking back on it now, it's to think about it, it's quite, quite a lot of change to take.
Of course.
But this is one of the exciting things I think about our industry, that it's a rapidly evolving space. It's got so much potential, so much opportunity, and it's really in your hands to grasp that. So that's something I think I did, maybe not necessarily knowing what the future held, but I had a belief that this was the right path. This was something that is going to change the way that we work much in that. And maybe I was a little bit fortunate in I saw the change that the internet brought along. Back then, people, even I think my boss at the time was saying the internet will never take off. It will never be important. And then, how wrong he was. Yeah. But also when we look back as well and we think of companies like Amazon, I remember when Amazon came along and it was selling books on the internet. Now it's doing so many other things. It's, it employs millions of people. I saw their share price jump 12% yesterday. It's an incredible company that's, innovated in so many ways that you wouldn't expect. And I think that's the potential for crypto as well when it comes to money and finance. But also you use the word bridge. I've always been of the view, throughout this time in this space, that it's not either or. I do see the two worlds coming together. And I think that is actually happening in a very real way with stablecoins. And it won't be the only part where you need the rigor of traditional finance, but bringing in the innovation that is happening in crypto, but into the more traditional world that has, guardrails, that has protection, that has things that we need when we're moving money and we're handling money and dealing with people's finances.
Of course. Well, I believe this is what Agant is doing now, no, with the digital, the pound, the sterling pound,
Yeah.
doing now, no, to bring this stability. Beside the stable coin itself is stable, but beside that, all the security and everything that you are doing. Listening to you, definitely is like you bet in your future as well, because it was completely clueless at that moment in everywhere. In all the ways what will happen with crypto. Most of people was like, it's something for, for trading. Let's bet $100 and let's say what's happening, but yes, definitely was a big bet on you, and you had a future view.
It was a bet, Jimena, and also people at the time when I left, I had a nice job in the city of London. What it's like working in banking and finance, nice, comfortable job, big company. And then, I decided to join a startup with, where we had to raise money and such. Like, all my friends in the city said, you're mad, working with Bitcoin and this and that. And I said, no, it's the future. And then literally 2 years later, they were like, how do I buy Bitcoin? How do I get into crypto?
I read a post of yours on LinkedIn that you were saying that you had dinner with friends from, I don't know if I was from college or somewhere else. And you were saying, and everybody was asking me, well, what about stable coins? How can I buy stable coins? Not that there was a lot of curiosity.
It is, it makes me laugh. Yeah.
Of course. And Chris, in your view, what is the most exciting innovation that's happening in payments right now? Besides stable coins or stable coins, like there's something else that excites you even more than that?
Well, obviously I'm biased because I work for Agant. We're building a stablecoin. For me, I think it is the most exciting and interesting. And actually, when we did Token in 2016, we were actually embarked on building a stablecoin. It wasn't called that back then, but we called it tokenized cash. It really goes back to the vision of Bitcoin. So the original Bitcoin white paper, Satoshi, whoever it was that created that, it was a peer-to-peer digital payment system over the internet. And that was the original intention of Bitcoin. But obviously it hasn't become that because it's not a stable currency. It's against the underlying fiat currency. It's not stable. So, stable coins have come about, as a way to fix that kind of stability issue. And for me, it's always been about transforming how we move money, how we move value over the internet. So, Internet 1.0 was about moving information. To move information, you copy that information or data from A to B, but with value, you can't copy it. And it's the underlying blockchain technology allows us to move value, move data from A to B and record that on the blockchain. So effectively a database for the internet that allows the recording of transactions happening over the internet. So that's always been kind of an exciting area for me. So to work in stablecoins and to see the growth in stablecoins and the fact that we're all talking about it and big companies are interested in it.
Yeah.
But I also see, in answer to your question, AI being very much the next step in this, because one aspect of stablecoins is the programmability. And if you have programmable money, means that programs on the internet can access that programmable money and do things with it. And those programs on the internet these days are AI agents. And, I hate to say it, but, AI is a revolution in the sense that there will be some very real uses of it. And I think the world of machine to machine payments, where you have fully automated payments happening potentially outside the banking system. It doesn't necessarily need the banking system because you have AI agents that make decisions on where money should be moved from one wallet to another. And the security and the controls are built into those programs and, smart contracts, as we call them. So I think the combination, for me, the combination or the future path for stablecoins is where programmability comes in and money becomes something that is much more dynamic. At the moment, the money that we move, bank to bank or payments institution, as you well know, only does one thing. It moves from A to B, and I have no control over that as, from either side. Yeah. Control sits in the hands of the bank. Control sits in the hands of the third party that I use. But I do see a world where, machines are taking over more and more. There's no doubt AI is now very much ingrained in our lives and in companies' lives. And the next step of that is that those AI programs, if they are ones that need to access payments, they're doing that by using stablecoins rather than accessing the banking network, which is a complex network to access, obviously. And it is not an open network. It's not like banks are necessarily, aside from open banking, they're not open to connecting into. So I think that combination of stablecoins and AI is a future path that we potentially could go down.
So are you thinking, Chris, something like is happening now with agentic commerce?
Yeah.
Not only doing your purchases via, don't know, PayPal or MasterCard or Visa, but instead as well, or no, instead, but as well with the stable coins, whatever wallet that you have integrated that can be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because, you're talking about an alternative way to move money, a way that doesn't need a third party, which is actually the original vision for Bitcoin. I think there was a post on LinkedIn I did about, the history of this. A passion of mine is history. And, the history of how we've got to this point is the 2008 crisis. And that's Bitcoin came about as a way, as an alternative to the banking system to move money. Now, it hasn't fulfilled that vision, but stable coins with wallets are, the route to, achieving that vision, where we have an alternative effectively to the banking system to move money. Now, that doesn't mean to say banks are not involved or can't be involved. They very much are involved because, number one, as a stablecoin issuer, we have to hold funds in a bank or an asset manager to back the stablecoin. So the bank takes on that role. Banks also have the opportunity to offer not just bank accounts to their customers, but wallet accounts. The wallet account can hold tokenized deposits, stablecoins, tokenized stocks and shares. We are moving to this world of tokenized assets. BlackRock, Larry Fink, CEO, talks a lot about this. We know that a lot of the asset managers looking at what are the benefits. There are many benefits in terms of achieving T0 settlement, transactions happening 24/7, 365. And then, like I say, programmable, having them of a programmable nature. So there is this transition of how money moves, how we work with money. And that's the exciting part. Stablecoins is the tip of that. And then there's all the other innovations around it, the wallet infrastructure, the AI programmability and use cases that come out of that. And then, you can see a world where things shift much in the same way they've shifted in other industries. If we look at just a simple case of media, TV and films. I was reading the other day. So we have a TV station in the UK called ITV. It's been a dominant, TV station, but it used to be more profitable than Netflix, but that has completely flipped. Netflix is way more profitable, has many more customers, and that shift has taken place over 10, 15 years, where you've had this transition to streaming and more customers moving to using that than they're using traditional television. And that's not to say that the traditional television is dead, it's not, but it has changed and it's shifted in terms of how we as consumers or businesses work with those new options. And I think that's what we'll see in finance. And I've always felt that. And I think we're now seeing that very much with, stable coins and the opportunity that offers for an alternative way to do payment.
And Chris, I have heard several times on this industry that stable coins are changing the rules of the game and in the financial system. So in your opinion, what do you think, how will be the role of the stable coins in the future? We're talking about daily basis payment.
It's a really good question. I mean, it's hard to see or predict, but if we look at the two sort of areas that, are impacted is businesses and consumers. From an Agant perspective, we're focused on institutions, so solving payments use cases for businesses. So that could be cross-border payments where businesses need, faster settlement, cheaper settlement, 24/7, 365. That's an alternative to Swift. And we even saw announcement the other day, Citibank and Coinbase have teamed up to enable that scenario to happen. In my previous role, I was working for a crypto hedge fund, the OTC desk, and we were doing a lot of USD trades for the commodities firms because they were settling their trades in stablecoin and they wanted to then off ramp into dollars. And so we would enable that. Why were they doing that? Because the banking system was too slow for them. You've shipped your oil, hundreds of millions of dollars of oil. It's sitting in the port, waiting to be offloaded. You're waiting for the payment. While through the banking system, it takes 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever. Too long. The buyer wants their oil and the commodity firm wants their ships back. So they've learned to pay with stablecoins. And so that's an instant transfer, doesn't require a third party. And once they've become used to doing that, once they've understood, how do I make a wallet what is a wallet? How do I make a wallet to wallet transfer? What is this wallet address? What are these keys? Once you've done that for a few $100s, then you can do it for a bigger amount, and then it becomes normal. And so this has been happening. And that's definitely one area where I think things can change. There are other areas too, such as on-chain FX. Many companies looking at, who are doing FX, doing that on-chain, faster, cheaper, quicker settlement, etc. So these are important to these businesses because moving those sorts of huge funds, the cost of capital, if capital is tied up or is moving too slowly, it's a huge cost for those businesses. Now, the other area with us, everyday people, is for me, we don't care how we pay, what we pay with, if it's our credit card, if it's our bank account, we just need to pay for something. We don't necessarily know the underlying system. Most people don't know, in the UK about faster payments and chaps. They just know if I make a payment from my bank, it goes from A to B, these days instantly. So there's not too much of a problem to solve there, necessarily from us consumer perspective. Where it might change is if businesses start to realize they don't need a bank to do payments or they don't need Visa to make payments. They can actually have a wallet infrastructure where, I have a wallet on my phone, Starbucks has a wallet, and I just make a transfer to Starbucks wallet and it doesn't require an intermediary. And that system, someone will come up with. Someone will come up, either they as companies will come up with it, or there'll be another third party that comes along, or perhaps Visa and MasterCard will adapt for those networks. But you then start to see how this changes our lives. And what would drive merchants to do that is they're not then having to pay the fees of handling money with Visa, MasterCard, etc. It's that disintermediation that has happened in other parts of internet sort of evolution. I mentioned media, that's just one area. The information. So right at the beginning, newspapers. So most of us consume our information online, and less printed media, which, has sort of declined. And I think, we'll see that kind of thing happening here as well. Not overnight, but I think it's going to be an evolution with, stablecoins offering the opportunity for these new types of systems to come about.
And as you say, there are too many, Chris, too many areas involved during the payment process. But one of these areas always is regulations. I like so much always ask about regulations because, as you know, always is the blocker or is the stopper, in all the industries. So in payments is the same, So how is Agant navigating with all this challenge? Because for sure it's a big challenge.
Yeah. Super question. So number one, we've always set out to be compliant and follow the regulation. That's why we're based in the UK. That's why we're applying for our FCA license to be able to operate in the UK. We're engaged with the FCA. They've published a consultation for the future stablecoin regulations. We've responded to that with a 50-page response. We meet with the FCA as part of their policy discussions. We're involved in those roundtables. We've met with the Bank of England. We're meeting with the Treasury next week. We're part of a all-parliamentary working group on digital assets and digital money. So we're approaching it from two ways. Number one, we ourselves will follow the regulations. So we be licensed and operate under that regime. When the new regime comes along, we'll be compliant with that. But we're also trying to work with regulators and the central bank and with government to explain the opportunity with stablecoins and to explain, what sort of regime would be best that balances the risks with the opportunity. And we're lucky at Agant, we have, an excellent chief legal officer who's worked at the Bank of England, who's been a regulatory lawyer, understands payments. And we have a superb head of compliance who also understands how we as a business need to be compliant and how we need to work within the rules that the FCA sets for us. And it's entirely possible to do that. And it's good that we do have regulation because, without that regulation, we've seen what's happened in the crypto space. And we need to all operate in an environment where people trust the system that's going on, and that system is being monitored by the right people.
I would say it's the first time that regulations are good for our business.
Yeah.
We're always complaining. Both of us the three of us are coming from financial institutions, banking and so on. And it sounds like, another regulation, another,
Yeah.
I think regulations in crypto is like at least market the land and the rules that the players should play. Otherwise it's like something unknown, something like a very risky. And that is also when the big scams and also banks have started to look at crypto like a more seriously, like this is crypto now. Now we are listening. Before it was like for the black market, let's say. Somebody was not really knowing what crypto was. It's like for black market or for just for trading to put some money in the seed, no? But I think that regulation was good. Like for example, in Europe, MiCA is really.
Yeah, this has helped in Europe for sure. To have MiCA, it gives regulatory clarity, and it's, really the first, large area that's regulated, because even the US, the Clarity Act, Genius is not live yet. So yes, it's on the table, but that's to come. So, it is good that we have this. We need regulatory clarity for sure, but we also need regulators to hear from industry, not strangle the industry.
Exactly.
It needs to allow the innovation to happen, because that's where we get growth in all of our countries, So that's definitely the
On
case
that
in
case,
the
we
UK.
need it. We need it for sure, because at the end we are talking about money, so we need it. And Chris, we were talking before about banks, traditional banks, and do you think that, and that they are not so faster, they are very bureaucratic, but do you think that they are adapting to these new payment methods, or maybe do you think that maybe they are more focused or more concerned about to be compliance, or maybe to be more competitive, with the fintechs? What is your opinion?
Another good question. So I've worked with banks for many, many years. And
Very traditional.
like you, I understand how banks work, right? I think, the thing with a bank is not designed to be innovative. That's not the job of a bank. A bank is designed to be stable, secure, trusted, and have systems that work. And that's it. Yeah. The challenge for banks is all this innovation is happening around them. And, we started with, talking about fintech, and I've been in the fintech space. Fintech has, come about as an alternative to banks. We have fintech banks in the UK, Starling, Monzo, Revolut, all these, new startup banks doing things slightly differently to how traditional banks are doing them. But we still need traditional banks. We still trust and work with traditional banks. Agant is working with, tier one banks in the UK for our banking services. And we trust those banks because we're going to be handling large sums of money, and that needs to sit with a large bank. That being said, what's interesting with the banks when it comes to stablecoins is they know that this change is happening and they have to react in some way. And I think it falls into two. Some are reacting in a positive way where they're looking to see how they can fit stablecoins into their ecosystem, even though it may not be the natural thing for them to do. Like I mentioned, we think there is an opportunity where banks can offer a wallet to their customers and that wallet hold digital assets of many types. Now, why is that interesting? Because my bank account only holds cash. So most people in the UK and Spain, they'll have, here a GBP account, in Spain, a Euro account. I have a couple of multi-currency accounts, but it's I have to set up those multi-currency accounts. They're separate accounts. With a wallet, I can hold digital euro, digital pound, digital dollars, digital stocks. Everything can sit in one wallet. And it offers the opportunity for a bank to offer a new type of product for a customer. And if I was a bank, that's the way I would look at it, rather than saying this is taking money away from my traditional business. And, the fear with the banks there and with the regulators or the central banks is that money flows out of the banking system into this new system. Well, actually, if the bank is giving me a wallet, the money in a way stays in the system, in the sense that the bank has visibility of my stablecoin deposit and it has visibility of my tokenized deposit, which sits on the bank's balance sheet. When I put my money in a bank, I'm effectively lending that to the bank. The bank can then do what they want with that. When I have a stablecoin, it's my money. It sits in my wallet. Okay, in this case, the bank hosts the wallet, but it's my money, it's my cash. And the bank can't touch that. They can't lend that out. They can't do anything with it. And that's but let's say I, as a customer or as a business, I want a loan from the bank. Yeah. But to get a loan from the bank, I need to have deposited enough money into my deposit account. Well, really, that's an area for programmability with, what I was mentioning about stablecoins or even tokenized deposits where they're programmable. I apply for a loan. Oh, Mr. Aruliah, you don't have enough money in your tokenized deposit account, but you do have these in your stablecoin account. We have to move it across for you to get that loan. So that becomes the collateral effectively for my loan. So that's a use case that, I think innovative banks will see that, because, at the end of the day, it's a choice from a customer, from a business. Of course, you've got those banks who are completely against it and they won't move. That's fine. Not every bank is going to move in that way, but the customer will be the ultimate decision maker. I'll give you an example. I think I posted on LinkedIn the other day. So I went to pay my British gas bill. So it was for a large amount. It was over £1,000, and the British Gas was not a payee on my bank account. So I added them as a new payee, and then I went to hit pay, and the bank said, "We've stopped this payment. It's being reviewed, etc."
You need an NDA of this new pay.
Oh yeah. Then 2 hours later, the bank calls me. It's your bank. Were you trying to make this payment? Has anyone coerced you into making this payment? Have they been trying to sell you something? I said, no, it's British Gas. I'm trying to pay my gas bill. So it was hilarious. So what should have taken me 5 seconds to do, or 10 seconds or 15 seconds, took 4 hours. So it took 4 hours in terms of time end to end for that payment to happen. British Gas, it took 4 hours for them to receive my money. But if this is happening for millions of people, it's a very frustrating experience. And I think I posted on LinkedIn, if I had had a wallet with stablecoins and I knew British Gas's wallet, I just send it, because I trust them. They trust me. In the world of stablecoins with wallet, we whitelist our wallets. So we have a trusted group of wallets, a bit like adding the payee to your bank account. You see, that's the difference. It's a consumer experience. So I think, again, with all these things, it's the end consumer experience. Whoever offers a better experience is probably where consumers will gravitate. And it will also be where businesses gravitate. If it's a better, faster, cheaper experience, then that's where I'm going to go. I actually don't care what the technology is. You can call it what you want,
Experience. So that's
Yeah,
why also Revolut is taking more and more use.
exactly. The Revolut experience
Wow.
is, you know, it's superb. It's much cheaper. And that's how Revolut has grown.
And having AI as well, Chris, there are so many things that you don't need to receive this call. There are so many things, so many parameters that you can reuse at that moment before proceeding to authorize the purchase, the transaction. So many things that you don't need to even contact your consumer, but yeah.
I mean, that's a great one. AI can tell you if who you're paying is fraudulent or not, you know? So I think there's that, and that's, it goes to the use case I was talking before, where machine to machine payments happen, and maybe even, we're talking to our AI agent. We're saying, hey, I need to pay my bill, send it from my wallet to their wallet. And we trust the AI agent knows that, where it filters out the scammers.
Yeah.
And Chris, I'm sure that there are too many people that is listening to this episode and they are asking about, okay, but which is the main difference between Bitcoin and stablecoin?
Yeah. Well,
for sure you can answer this question.
Well, the main difference, I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about, but the first thing to say is price volatility. The price of Bitcoin compared to what I buy it with, pounds, fluctuates. Stablecoin price does not fluctuate. So if I put in 100 euros or 100 pounds to buy, 100 pounds or euros worth of stablecoins, when I come to cash in those stablecoins, I get 100 pounds or 100 euros back. With Bitcoin, I buy 100 Bitcoin for X euros. When I come to exchange that, it's going to be Y euros. The price has changed.
Yeah.
Now, that has meant that Bitcoin has become more of a trading asset than it is of a, transfer of value asset. So it's not efficient to move value using Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be used if I'm speculating and my bet is I believe the price of Bitcoin will go up. So I'll buy some Bitcoin and hold on to it. And that's what Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies are. Purely tradable assets. And obviously now trading is is the biggest use case for cryptocurrencies. I mean, they're designed to be used in different ways within the blockchain ecosystem, but the market for trading those is obviously huge when we talk about Bitcoin itself, and then ETH being the second. So I think that's that whole world. Stablecoins fulfill the purpose where I can use a digital token to move value over the internet, and that value at the point of movement and at the point of receipt stays the same.
Okay.
Do you listen, Chris, of Veronica? It's because she said to me yesterday, after this episode, I'm going to buy stablecoins. She's listening so carefully, I've been trying to convince her since, no.
Exactly. I see that I'm more convinced now, Chris, for sure.
Now you are
After the episode, I'm going to purchase a stablecoins because you know that at the end, I'm always saying that risk is not my second surname,
Yeah.
That's the thing. Keeping in mind that I don't like the risk, I'm sure that after this episode, I'm going to purchase a stablecoin for sure.
The stablecoin is a way for you to hold your money. Now, the one downside to the stablecoin is you don't earn any interest on it. Now, at Agant, we are creating a coin, which is a yield token where you will earn interest. And the way we generate that interest is from traditional markets. We invest it in funds. And so that will be the stablecoin. Think of the stablecoin like your payments account or your banking account in a way. We can't call it that. It's for you to make payments and send money and receive money. But if you want to earn interest, you can hold it in the yield token. And that's, something we're providing alongside our stablecoin where you'd earn interest. An interesting use case for stablecoins, which we didn't realize, is in countries where they have high inflation, LATAM, Africa, and what people are doing there at the moment is they're putting their money into US dollar stablecoins. Because essentially, if they put their money into US dollars or pounds or yen, they're actually earning interest because of the devaluation of their currency. And so we're seeing a lot of interest for GBP stablecoins abroad, LATAM, Africa. And this is as an alternative to dollars. That's a use case we hadn't thought about, but it is something, on your point, Veronica, about that risk, in countries where it's the reverse, where the currency is risky, it's actually less risky to put it.
This is our first name. Yeah. And Chris, this question is just chat between us. What about the news that came yesterday about the digital euro? I don't know if you heard the news.
Yeah.
The digital euro. So what are your thoughts about that? Because my first thought was like, well, at least Europe is talking about digital assets, stable coins, and so on, And I did a comment like, well, great news. A bunch of people came after me like, explain why this is good news for Europe. Tell me, it's like, now France wants to control all the crypto. It was funny reaction from people, like from one side, as we were saying, at least regulation and at least that Europe is starting to think of that when it was so much more France, that's very traditional. But I would like to know what are your thoughts on this.
Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts. Maybe I'll start by saying I attended a dinner this week, and there was an exec board member of the Bundesbank at that dinner, and a couple of her colleagues, and then around the table there was Bank of England, Barclays, NatWest, many other people around the table. We were debating this topic, and obviously the Bundesbank and the ECB, all very keen on the digital euro. I mean, firstly, I guess it's interesting that, a digital euro is being proposed. I think I read somewhere the cost of this is estimated to be 1.3 billion euros to build it, which is a staggering amount of money. I don't know how actually, if Agant had 1.3 billion euros, I think we'd be able to do so much. But it is astounding. Again, I think this comes back to choice, because one of the major differences between a central bank-led initiative and a private initiative is that we as individuals or we as businesses are in control of our money, and no one's monitoring what's going on there. The fear I think that people have is that a centralized, digital euro or digital pound or whichever currency it is, means that the authorities now have control and visibility over your transactions. And that's the part I think that potentially will lead to it not being popular with people, because, people will, here's a funny story. So I'm trying to get healthy. So I go to the gym and I hired a personal trainer, and she...
And the payments stablecoins, I hope so.
Yeah, so I was like, doing the bench presses and stuff. And then, in between, she's like, oh, I just only met her. So tell me what you do. What do you do for a living? I thought, oh, how am I going to explain? And I said, Frankie, let me just start by saying whatever I tell you, you're not going to understand. And number two, whatever I'm doing, you're never going to see for 10 years. You could tell on her face, she's like, what does this guy do? So I thought, how do I explain stablecoins very simply? I came up with a simple explanation. And first thing she said is, wow, that sounds amazing. When can I have it? Oh, pretty soon, because, we're Agant is launching, etc. And then the second thing she said, will the government know what's happening with my money?
Yeah.
I was like, because she's self-employed and...
Of course.
So it's a natural question, because why has cash existed for so long? We don't want, quite frankly, some people don't want the government to know what's happening with their money. So, the majority of us are quite happy for our money to flow in the traditional system where, yes, people know, here in the UK, the tax office knows what's happening in your bank account, etc. We all know that. But citizens, I think, don't like the fact that government spies on them and, is knowing what's happening to their transactions. A bank knows what's happening to your transactions, but they're not reporting it unless they have to from a obligations perspective. But, that's the fear I think people have. Without becoming too political on that, it comes to Europe, there are different feelings in each country towards, the European Union controlling.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Chris. Chris, so talking about industry insights and so on, one of the, I think, the biggest advantage of stablecoins are for cross-border payments, right? And I would say obviously lead to remittance. So what do you think? Do you agree on that? What is the biggest impact that will have stable coins on those.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest use cases, one of the biggest areas where stablecoins have the chance to have an impact. I think they already are. And that's really what's happened in the crypto world because, having been in that world, having been in organizations where, we're moving money or, I've been part of that whole system where, capital movement is important and it is cross-border. So, if you're on an exchange and you're trading firm customer is in Cayman Islands or wherever, and they need to move 100 million onto your exchange or off your exchange, that's a cross-border payment. Now, that happens with stablecoins these days. Most of that trading now that's happening on exchanges is against stablecoin pairs, not against fiat currency pairs. Then that means that I can take that money off exchange, instantly move it from my exchange wallet to my own wallet. Now, I think that will permeate out into the wider world as, like I said, people understand how wallets work and then how stablecoins work. The commodities world has already found this and it's doing it with USDC and USDT. I think more and more firms will find that. I mentioned that Citibank teamed up with Coinbase now to do that. I think we'll see more of that. And, really here it's the alternative to SWIFT. SWIFT has been the system we all use, but it's not just SWIFT, it's the correspondent banking system. Because my bank might send the money, but then it gets stuck at some other bank that I have no relationship with. It has no relationship with me. And, none of us want our money to be stuck, particularly if I'm a business and I'm moving hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of euros. So I think, yes, cross-border is potentially one of the biggest areas. And then, this is where the internet becomes the new rails for moving money, not closed systems with intermediary banks that are moving the money. That definitely we see as Agant as being one of the biggest areas that, stable coins will play a part in.
And the fees as well.
Fees as well, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, it's a long time they already are on the crypto. I mean, more than 5 years already. Do you think that it's too much crowded with a lot of players? So there is still some room for innovation and also for more players to come?
So if we think about stablecoins, I think we're still at the beginning of the journey. I mean, essentially, there's only really two dominant players on the dollar side. There are obviously others coming up and they're issuing dollar stablecoins. So there's a lot of activity in the dollar space. So I think, when it comes to US dollars, potentially, yes, there's going to be less and less room, I think. But with other currencies, and obviously if we talk about UK for GBP, we're very much at the beginning. So Agant, will hopefully launch soon when we get our regulatory approval, but there's still room. And we are not pretending that we're going to be the only one. We're fully expecting there to be others. But the way we think about this is it's just the same as we have multiple banks or multiple payments institutions. There's not just one place where I go to put my money and move my money. It's customer choice. And so you will choose which stablecoin you will use based on the feeling you have towards the company behind it. How trusted are they? What's the team behind them? Are they regulated? Obviously, you can't operate unless you are regulated. But then what other services do they provide? What other features are there that I can make use of? In the case of Agant, it's the stablecoin, but it's also the chance to earn interest on my money. And so I can keep my money parked, earning interest. And in future, we'll have other products as well that are of digital nature that allow you to put your money on chain. And once it's on chain, as we say, then we'll have other products and services that you can access instantly and cheaply to help you grow your money. So it's all about, moving money, storing money, growing your money, and then the products and services that we can provide, around that. So it's stablecoins is only the beginning of that journey. And, as Agant, we want to be the on-chain, your on-chain financial services partner, and then, wide range of services that could be.
I realized because it's working for implementing a project about stable coins, I had to list all the different providers of each step. for custody, for, for settlement, for each of the steps. So you always come to the main players. So you see that at the end of the day, it's not super crowded at all. It's like you always come to the typical players that are in the game already. So definitely I think that there is a lot of room still for new players. And as I say, each of them having a different relevance in the whole process. Because I don't see yet that there is a whole journey, like I always say that it's still left this last mile, of journey, at least at the moment, where you can go, for example, you were saying, you go to Starbucks and you pay your coffee with stable coins, something that it covers the whole journey of the user. We discussed already about this. If there is something else that you want to add in terms of regulation, I mean, some people say that stablecoins are coming from a safer place than the digital asset or like bill crypto like Bitcoin. Do you want to add something else? Do you think that regulation is, having a positive impact on stablecoins?
I mean, I would say yes, it does, because what it brings is trust. I mean, we all know what it's like to be in a regulatory environment. There is hurdles for us as a business, but the positive side is it brings trust to others. Businesses and we as consumers are going to be, more comfortable working with regulated businesses than unregulated. Obviously, there are people who they don't mind either way, and that's more the sort of crypto native people. But, that's a very small fraction of the overall money market in all the different things we do with our money. So I think having that regulation is really important to build trust and engender trust.
Yeah, sure. And Chris, that most of the people that they are outside of this industry. So these words like crypto, Bitcoin, stablecoin, everything is like a black box. So how was your motivation to say, okay, I want to be part of this challenge? I want to be a master. I want to be, I don't know, but how was your motivation to be there?
Yeah, that's a good question, which goes back to, I think, when I met Steve and at Token, and he's a visionary. He's had many startups. In fact, he invented the optical mouse, so that we all use today. And he invented that when he was a student at MIT. He actually built the world's first internet search engine, InfoSeek, which still exists. It's used in Japan, but he sold that. And, he's been an entrepreneur all his life. So when I met him and he talked about tokenization and all these things, it really captured my attention and my mind. And really, that's how I started to see the future. So that's what interested me. That's what got me into this space. Now, what I think has been interesting with my journey, having been in the crypto space, I actually think like a lot of crypto these days is quite crazy. It's sort of gone off in a direction that I can see why some people question crypto. And we've had lots of stories that have come out of the crypto space. But I kind of refer to crypto as like a lab experiment where lots of innovation has happened. And then out of that have come some things that are useful. And I think stablecoins is the one kind of use case for me that's come out that, yes, we can use that. It's matured enough now. And we've got enough learning and understanding and usage where we can say this is something that, is useful. And I think that's why there's a lot of interest in it. And so that brings me, again, we talk about ourselves as a fintech. We see ourselves as a fintech. It's about financial technology. It's about the traditional world. For us, being a UK-based company in the City of London, it's about helping the City of London, that financial sector, come on chain. What does that mean? So we're meeting with, big asset managers, with the banks, and having these discussions, which is super fascinating, that this innovation that has come out of the crypto worlds is now transitioning. And Jimena, you mentioned that bridge. It's very much happening, I think, with stablecoins, where the world of crypto is now bridging with the world of traditional finance around stablecoins and around, wallet infrastructure and all the things that's needed to transform how we move money. And then I do see other things coming out. So I mentioned our yield token. We look at that as tokenizing yield. So bringing yield on chain, but how do we get that yield? We're actually using traditional money managers, investment firms, taking, investing the money there, but the way that you access it and the way that you consume it is through a digital token. And so it's just a different way of accessing those funds.
And Chris, how are you doing to be always updated? Because crypto or payments are always growing and is moving so faster.
Yeah.
So at the moment, there is not any degree, in cryptocurrencies or something like that. So what are
Yeah.
you doing to be updated?
Yeah, maybe someone should create one. I think it would be useful to have one. But for me, I read, I keep up to date with the sort of regular news. CoinDesk is a good source for that. A really good source for me is Coin Bureau, which they have a YouTube channel. I think that's one of the best ones out there for me. You get a lot of information from that and a lot of analysis as well. Obviously, also just for my day-to-day work, meeting people, hearing about new projects, being introduced to new things. The great thing, I think, with more the crypto space is there's so many events and conferences going on. You can go to these and you can learn new things there. You can meet new people. And so that's one good way as well to keep up to date.
And Chris, we would like to know you more for a personal way. So what keeps you motivated today? Not only from a professional side or non-professional side.
Well, on the professional side, I love business. I love, I'm the chief commercial officer here. I've been in the business development side, most of my career. I enjoy that side of things. I enjoy doing, doing deals, more sort of recent career, building teams, building businesses, seeing things grow, seeing people grow, helping people grow. So that motivates me. And then on the personal side, I have a family. I live outside of London, so I'm more motivated by nature here, where here we go walking, hiking. It's nice outdoors. There's also nice restaurants, here, etc. So I enjoy that side of life as well. I'm a big history buff, so I love history, and actually hoping to go back to university part-time to do a history degree.
I saw that.
Oh,
Super
wow.
cool. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to find the time to do.
I have no idea. I'm going to have to make the time somehow.
Okay. Sadly, we're reaching the end of our conversation, Chris. It has been super nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. But
Really
before
enjoyed it.
closing, thank you. Before closing, we'd like to do like a quick round of questions. Whatever comes first to your mind, you respond. So, what is the app that you use the most daily? And you're gonna say WhatsApp.
Not WhatsApp. I think the second one is Instagram.
Instagram. Good. Nice. A book or podcast that has inspired you recently?
So I read a lot, but one I think that has inspired me recently is Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, 7 Tools for Life, which I never thought a book from Arnold Schwarzenegger would be inspiring, but I was intrigued because I'm intrigued as him as a person. It's a really great book. Lots of good advice, and also to learn about his life and how he's grown as an individual is really quite inspiring. So yeah, I'd say that one stands out.
I thought you would say the Diary of the CEO.
Oh yes, this one. I haven't actually read that.
You should. It's good.
I should read it.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Are you an early bird or a night owl? If you could go back, which advice would you give to your 20 years old self?
I would say believe in yourself, trust in, your own abilities, and don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do. That's the advice I would give to my 20-year-old self. It's also advice I give to other young people when they have doubts about their future or what they want to do, or, I've mentored a few people over the years, and that's one thing I say to them is just believe in yourself, trust in yourself, because ultimately you shape your future, not somebody else.
Very true. Very true. Thank you so much, Chris. Because there is something that I can say from this conversation with you is that you can switch careers. A technical person being the chief commercial officer of one of the biggest companies in digital assets and crypto definitely is you. Something else that you say is that it doesn't matter how uncertain can look like the future. Still, if you have this gut feeling, go for it. Like you went for fintech and after for crypto. So definitely something coming from a guy that was working at one of the most traditional banks, Bank of England, definitely something. And yes, your journey is really inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And maybe in a couple of years would be easier to describe what stablecoins is, and maybe your personal trainer will understand better. Maybe she's already betting in Bitcoin and also stablecoins for Starbucks and her gym. So Definitely has been a pleasure to have you in this episode.
It's been a pleasure, Chris. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
the pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Mena. Thank you, Veronica. I've enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.